Hi, my name's Lori Alexander from The Transformed Wife, and I'm going to show you the fastest, easiest way to make my Einkorn sourdough bread. My sister, I've been making it now. Probably made 25 loaves. And my sister's been making it for a few months now. She figured out even a faster way than I've done because I've skipped steps and everything, but it's so easy, women. It's so good. So I'm going to show you. So anyway, here's my starter. And you add 1/4 cup of flour, 1/4 cup of water to it every day, once a day. And you only want to get, once it gets up to 2 cups, you just keep throwing it out. You only need about 2 cups. And then when you're not going to be using it, you put it in the refrigerator covered for a week. And you'll take it out again for a couple days if you're not going to use it to add 1/4 cup flour, 1/4 cup of whole wheat. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my levain. To make the levain, all you need is, this is the kind of flour you're going to make your bread with mostly, einkorn. It's the only wheat that's never been hybridized, and that's why it's so much easier to digest. And then with fermentation, it makes it a lot better. So you just get a little jar like this, and you put it on your scale. You definitely need a scale. You put it on, and you put it to 0, and then you're going to add 25 grams of the starter, which is not very much. It's amazing how little starter you need to make 2 loaves of bread. And this one, I'm going to be letting it ferment a lot longer, and my sister said that it rises so much. I'm going to be so excited. All right, so I had 25 grams of that. You put it back to 0. And now I'm going to add 75 grams of filtered water. So 75 grams. Okay, that's 75 grams of that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's amazing how you just don't have to be perfect on this bread at all. And it still works out. It's almost, 75 grams of this flour then. I've never ruined one loaf yet, and I've forgotten many steps. And okay, one woman told me that. Okay, let me see, 75. Just about, okay, 75 right there. Then you take it off. You never want to mix it on this mixer, on this scale. You don't want to ruin your scale, because it's one of the that along with the skillet that you cook the bread in. The Dutch oven is the most expensive thing. But this bread, all it has is flour in it and salt and water, and it's so easy. Okay, you just mix that up really, really good. And then you want to take the sides off. I have a little spatula. Take the sides off right there. And what I'm going to do, and it's early in the morning today, I'm just going to cover it with a cotton cloth. I'm just going to leave it there all day long. And then tonight I'll come back and I'll make the bread, and then it's going to sit all overnight, so it's going to just be so easy. You're going to be really excited about it if you love this bread, how easy this is going to be. See you late this afternoon. Bye bye. Okay, it's later in the afternoon, and my levain has about doubled. I did have to kind of put it in the sunlight behind a window because it's a little colder today, so it definitely needs to double though. So what you're going to do, I put in 650 grams of water. It's about 3 cups, and you use filtered water. And then you put your levain in. Make sure you get it all out. You want all that because that's what causes it to rise. Then you use this little whisk right here. You want to take it off the scale. You never want to whisk it while it's on the scale. You want your scale to last a long time. And you whisk it real good in there. I will be putting all the directions on the bottom of this post, so you won't need to buy your own, because I make it a little bit different than the ones that I bought it from. So I'm going to be putting it all writing it all out for you because we've experimented and changed it, and so it's different than anything that we bought. So, okay, so you put it back on your scale, and now you're gonna add 200 grams, you put it to 0, you're gonna add 200 grams of preferred whole grain. Today I'm gonna use this organic, the whole wheat einkorn. You could use sprouted flour, which is really good. Oops, I just poured it in now. I don't use a spoon anymore. This is a lot faster. Okay, I got up to about 212, but that's okay. And then I'm gonna put it back to 0, and I'm gonna put in 300 grams of the einkorn. I buy this at Thrive Market, and I buy a bunch of it because I make a lot of this. Okay, I'm gonna put 500. You almost use this whole bag for 2 big loaves. Okay, 500 grams. It's almost there. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to take this off. Actually, I'm doing it different this time. I forgot. It's not 500. I used to put in 300 and then I would add 500. So I'm going to put in 800 total. So I'm going to put in 300 more. Okay? So you're going to put 800 grams of flour total. 800. You're just going to do it all together. I'm just putting all the steps together instead of doing them separately, and it works just as good. And it's a lot, it just makes it a lot easier for you guys. The salt, you're going to put in 30 grams of salt. Let me put it back to 0. So 30 grams of salt. I think I said 20 when I made it last time, but you really need 30. And it's not all that much, but it makes it taste a lot better. Okay? And then, see, this is the second step, and then you need 50 more grams of water. So, I will tell you exactly how much water you need from the very beginning, because you don't need to do the water, the 450 grams at first, and then the 50 grams right now. You can do it all together. Okay, now what you do here is you can mix it up a little bit with this to get it going, and then you're going to put your hand in there to get it really mixed up. And when I first made it, I was doing it with 2 hands. Now I just make it with 1. Just clean this off a little bit. Just mix it a little bit with that. And then you're going to take your hand in there and you're just going to really mix it up like that. So instead of adding some here and letting it sit for half hour and then adding more later and letting it sit for another half hour and then folding it for 4 times in 2 hours, we're going to cut all that out. You just add everything all at once. Everything that's going to be in your bread. And I'll put that below, because this is the first time I'm really doing it this way. But I've made it up to know how to do it, and that even if I miss steps, it works out. And then my sister just told me yesterday that about this, just put everything together and you don't have to wait at all, and it's great. So, and then what I'm going to be doing after this is I'm going to be covering it with Saran Wrap and letting it sit for like 15 hours. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so it'll be tomorrow after church sometime. And she says it rises a lot. So usually my bread, the way that I've been doing it, it doesn't rise much. The only time it really rises is when I cook it. So it'll be really interesting to see when it actually rises in this bowl. Okay, now you just give it a good, this is the only time you're going to mix it, women. This is it. So just make sure it's really mixed in well. It's a little wet and sticky, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to cover this with Saran Wrap now and I will be back in about 15 hours to show you what else we do. It's not much work, it's pretty easy. Bye-bye. Okay, here it is. It's Saran wrapped. I wanted to show you the size so you can see how it rises tomorrow in about 15 hours. So 15 hours of fermenting is a nice long time. If you like sourdough bread, you will love this bread. And it's a lot easier to digest. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Okay, it's the next morning, and it has definitely risen. I'm sure it's doubled. So I will show you what you do with it now. It's very easy and delicious. Okay, here's my dough. I just put a bunch of this flour on the counter, and then I'm gonna put it over it. It's really sticky, and you want to get a little bit of stickiness away. So you want to get a lot of flour in it. So I use my little dough cutter here for that, until I can get it not quite so sticky. So I just kind of keep adding flour to it until I can really work with it easier. Because if it's too sticky, you just can't really do anything. So just add a lot of flour to it, and then it becomes like this, where you can work with it. Okay, now what you want to do is you just want to divide it into 2 pieces. Your dough cutter, and make sure you have a lot of flour on here. Like I said, it's real sticky, so you want to have lots and lots of flour to work with. Okay. Now, I don't do very much with it at all. I'm not one of those that make gorgeous loaves every time. Just kind of squish it out like this, and then you just bend it over this way, that way, that way, and that way. And before you put it, I should have showed you this before I did this, but I have some of this flour, rice flour, and this flour, half and half. I put it in this, and you want to shake it really good on here because you don't want it to stick when you're putting the bread into the pan. Okay, now this you just pick up, you just put it right in like that, kind of stick it together as good as you can. This will be the bottom side, so it doesn't matter as much. Then you put more of this on it, then you put the cloth on top of it. And I'm just going to put it in the refrigerator for an hour or so, and then I'll be back. I'll do the other one in a minute, and then I'll be back and I'll show you how to cook it. Okay, what you do when you want to cook it now, this is the 4th step to making einkorn bread. The first video I made on this, it took about 12 steps. This one takes about 4, so it's cut it dramatically and made it so much easier. So what you do is you preheat your oven to 500 degrees with your Dutch oven in it. So it's been preheated, and you want to always have these really heavy duty mitts because it's really extremely hot. Then you take your bread out of the refrigerator and you dump it in there. And I know you can't see this, but what you do is you just make cuts in the top of the bread. And I know some women make beautiful designs, but I don't. All right, so then you're going to want to put it back in the oven with the lid on. It's a little bit too heavy for me to put in there with the lid. It's a really heavy pot. And you want to cook that for 20 minutes at 500 degrees. And then in 20 minutes, you're going to take the lid off, and you're going to put the oven down to 465 degrees, and you're going to cook it for another 10 minutes. And then I'll show you what it looks like and how I eat it. So I'll see you then. One thing I did want to mention is the pans, like the jars that you make the levain in, that has a hardened flour and water, and the bowl that I had it sit in overnight to rise, and the dough is hardened all around it. They're hard to clean, so the best way to clean them is to just put them in the sink, fill them with hot water, let them sit for a couple minutes, and then it comes off pretty easily. And that's how my sister told me how to clean them. So anything that you, like even the spatula that gets the hardened flour and water, because it almost becomes like glue, that's how you clean it, just hot water, and it comes off pretty easily. So I'll be back in about a half hour and show you my baked bread. Okay, the timer just went off. So I'm going to put my hot gloves in, get the bread out. It's really hot, so be really careful. This is what it looks like. Right there. And then I'll get ready to put the next one in. And I did want to say a couple things. You need to put this in the bottom of the pan before you put your bread in so it won't stick. And what else was there? Oh, and then when you're cutting it, you need to be really careful because the pan's really hot, and my sister fried her arm right here. So those two things right now. Now I'll come back in a second. I'm going to cut it open for you, put some butter on it, and show you how I eat it and taste it to see if it's as good as the bread that I make with a 12-step. I'm going to get the other bread in the oven first though, so I'll be right back. Okay, the other loaf is in the oven. And I have a really good knife. It wasn't very expensive. I don't remember where I bought it. And this bread is really neat because you don't really need to let it cool off before you start eating it. So I just wanted to show you how I eat it. And I want to taste it because I want to see if it's any different than the bread that I've been making that takes a lot more steps. This one just took so few. Okay, because I didn't let it sit for long. It didn't. Now, what I eat on my bread is I eat, look at this pretty, that's my china from when I got married 37 years ago. But I use raw, organic, pastured butter on it, and I put a huge lump because my sister, my daughter, my niece, they all took a year-long nutrition class. And they said that when you're eating any type of carbohydrates like this, like bread, if you put fat with it, it helps the grain to digest slowly, and your insulin levels don't spike, which cause a lot of disease and ill health. So just slather on that good butter, and then enjoy it. And like if you're eating fruit, it's good to have good fat, whole fats with it, like kefir, to help it to not spike your insulin levels. So let me just taste this and see if it tastes as good as the other one. Just as good. So good right out of the oven. With a lot of butter on it. Use that little extra butter to massage my hands. So anyway, this is my bread, and it's so good. And it's so easy with just 4 steps. I'm not counting where you let it rise, because that's nothing that you have to really do. Just does it on its own. So I will put detailed instructions on the bottom of this YouTube. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye.